All right, welcome back to the Mandarin Blueprint Podcast. Today we have on Ken Morgan, who just finished phase 2 of the Mandarin Blueprint Method course and has kindly agreed to participate in a case study. So we'll follow Ken and see how he's doing with the course. But at this point, at the end of phase 2, Ken will have seen some, characters and words. But first, before we get into any of the specifics, I think maybe an introduction is in order. So Ken, tell us about yourself and why you decided to study Chinese.
I'm practice Qigong, so I'm interested in Qigong, and I want to be able to read the books. The head of our Qigong system, Dr. Pang, he's written like a dozen books, and only 4 have been translated.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
apart from that is to be.
Go ahead.
Apart from that is to be able to speak to masters as well.
So
to Qigong masters.
Tell for people in our audience who are unaware of Qigong, tell them a little bit about what it's about. I think the closest thing that most people would find it somewhat similar to is Tai Chi, but it is a little bit different. So maybe you could tell people about what Qigong is.
Qigong is like Tai Chi, but it's more concerned with health. At least the system I do is more concerned with health.
Okay.
So it involves body movements, mind concentration.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you've seen the Tai Chi, then you have some idea.
Yeah. I've seen there's people outside in my little complex every day who are doing some version of either Qigong or Tai Chi, and it's very peaceful. You see people doing it, and you tend to have a real peace of mind with it. So that's awesome.
Yes, the founder of our system, Dr. Pang, in the 90s, he had a big center in China, and there were thousands of people there, and lots of people getting cured from all sorts of illnesses.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, Qigong is like
cancer.
Well, wow, really? that's incredible. It's really amazing the power of our minds to be able to sort of reorient how we're seeing ourselves in the world, and sometimes that can create quite a change even in our physical health. So that's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So so you live in Malaysia, which is pretty cool. What brought you to Malaysia originally?
Well, we were in England. We come from England, and we were running an acupuncture clinic at the time, and we weren't making much money. And I thought, let's go somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's go somewhere warmer, somewhere cheaper.
And
basically, we retired here.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Mandarin speakers in Malaysia, eh? So you'll have a good chance to use what you're learning.
Their dialect is a bit different, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
although
very confusing.
Most people will find, what I found is that, because I live in a place where the dialect is not exactly Mandarin, but everybody understands it. So, I bet that the Chinese speakers in Malaysia they'd at least hear you speaking Mandarin. They would understand what you're saying, which is, at the end of the day, that's the key. Now, understanding them might take a little bit longer if they have a different.
Exactly, because they pronounce the letters the same. So, they'll pronounce SH as S.
That's what they do in
Sichuan. For a beginner.
Yeah. So they'll say all the H's seem to go. So you have it's like it's like, oh, okay, well, where those H's go. But the thing that's interesting, I ended up learning Sichuanese, or at least understanding it simply through osmosis by learning Mandarin first, because you can kind of figure out the corresponding relationship between the pronunciations. So when you first hear it, like now when I listen to Sichuanese, it's almost like kind of probably how you might imagine listening to somebody with a very strong accent from, either another country or, another, in England, there's so many accents that you could probably find somebody just from, maybe 30 miles away and they'll have a different enough accent, but still it's kind of ends up being like that. And that's why we always recommend people still focus on Mandarin anyway, because it has the most applicability. And then you can kind of specialize once you've sort of mastered enough of it. So
yes,
yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's get in a little bit to more. So you wanted to be able to read these books about Qigong and speak to the Qigong masters. Is there anything else that you plan to do when you're able to speak and read Mandarin?
Well, it would open up a lot here in Malaysia as well, because there's like a lot of things that are only in Mandarin.
Yeah.
For example, I'm interested in Buddhism, but most of the Buddhism that goes on here is in Mandarin.
Yeah.
It would open up a lot of doors here in Malaysia for sure.
Yeah. I've been focusing a lot recently on more of the Taoist and Buddhist texts because they're so fun to read. Like when you can read the Taoist and Buddhist texts in Chinese, like it's like there's such a there's a profundity to it that I don't think you can get in the English translations, and it's hard to articulate because it's there's something about the economy of words, I guess you could say, like sort of the way that you can get across so much meaning in such like what seems like simplistic, but it's actually quite profound. And I particularly like the Taoist text, but I'm partially influenced by that because I live in Chengdu, which is essentially the birthplace of Taoism. The birthplace of Taoism comes from Qingcheng.
You find them easy to read?
Well, the Taoist texts are really easy to read.
Yeah,
yeah, they're really easy to read because they're simple. Like they're just meant to be that way to some degree. So,
good.
Awesome. So great. So let's talk about a little bit some specifics of the course. So you're at a point now where you've seen, all our videos related to the Hanzi movie method and how to learn a character. So could you talk a little bit about your experience of figuring out that mnemonic system and then maybe end with how long does it take you to learn a character now, and how long did it take you to get to that point?
I already had some familiarity with these kind of systems, so it was one of the things that interested me about your course. Actually, I'd actually read the article that you based the system on, and I listened to the the Marilyn method, yes, right. I'd listened to Alex Mullen talking about trying to use it, although he changed it a bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, cool.
In fact, when I studied acupuncture, I used memory systems to remember the points.
Yeah. I was just
but I'm
good.
I don't try to go very fast though, so I don't think I'm a very fast maker of the images. If it's a very easy thing, then it's very fast, but some of the more abstract words take a while to think up. How am I going to, like from, for example, or and?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like there are certain ones that are like, well, it's a bit abstract, but there's almost always a way. One of the ones that really helped me a lot was we had this guy, Nick. He was in a few of the videos. One of the things he used to do was just he would do this quick word association thing where he would be like, okay, I want to learn these 25 characters today. So here are the 25 keywords. And he would just go make these quick word associations by just saying them out loud and seeing what comes to mind. There's so many, it's kind of interesting. You have to take a perspective with any mnemonic system where you kind of have to relax weirdly. Like even though you're trying to do something, you're putting in effort and you're saying, I'm going to imagine these different things. You have to somehow just go, but what is my brain just going to show me already? Because essentially you're trying to find something that's already there and then make a connection, And so tell me a little bit about, so you got into, one of the things that we always find is interesting with somebody like you, we didn't have to convince you that mnemonics are an effective memory technique because you were already doing it. So did you find that, I guess systemizing it a little bit more, tell me about that. Because if you already knew about mnemonics, you can imagine why it is that remembering faces or spaces or objects is easier than remembering text on a page. But had you ever done it in such a systemized way before where it's like, okay, we're going to.
No, and that's what attracted me. Because actually I'd started doing the yo-yo course.
Oh, right.
I bought the yo-yo course. And then I read that article, Marilyn Method, and it seems really good, but to try and do it on your own,
right? Yeah,
not knowing what order the characters should be, and so I think the great thing about Mandarin Blueprint is that it gets you into the system in an easy, someone leading you down the process. To try and do it yourself would be like too difficult, I think.
Yeah, you don't have the knowledge to, like, you know, you need to
Yes.
have knowledge of Chinese to know what order makes sense. And then, you know, we actually are just about to release the expansion of the course. We're going to add about 930 characters or so. So it's going to be a big expansion. And we did a lot of focus on, okay, what are the major sort of frequency, like what are the frequencies of all these characters based on billions and billions of characters? And then we said, okay, now though, make sure we use common props, make sure we use common keywords together, or where, you know, certain words are going to get unlocked that make a lot of sense to put together. And it took a long time, but now it's like, that's the thing that I think is the biggest advantage, is the order. It's like, okay, here's the order of things. It's going to unlock these new sort of, it's very much like a game in that way, because you kind of unlock achievements and you can now do more and more. So as you went through it, you know, so obviously the first two phases are kind of intensive because we have a video for every single lesson. And then after that, we say, okay, you should have enough now that you can do this on your own. How did you find that transition, you know, to moving into a little bit less help from us and a little more, you know, of your own effort?
I think I don't mind. I don't mind not having the videos, but sometimes there's no kind of example stories, which are quite helpful.
Yeah, we're gonna be making some improvements to phase 3 at some point, because that is a bit of a feedback that we've gotten a fair few times. We're always in this tension between expanding the course, which the people who are at the end, they really want us to do that. They're like, yeah, keep expanding it, and improving the quality of the different phases. But definitely after we finish this expansion, the first port of call is go back to phase 3 and see what we can add to it to make it a bit more engaging. So yeah, that's good. That's good feedback. Appreciate that. So now you said you take your time with the characters, but if you say you run into a character that is like not that abstract of a keyword, how fast does it take? Can you go through the process of, you know, coming up with your props and actor and set and remembering the scene?
Oh, if it's an easy word, then probably I don't know, less than 30 seconds, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fast, isn't it?
Not very fast, not very slow.
Yeah.
What I do is I always write the story down on the Anki card as well, so that takes some time.
Yeah. Oh, you write it down. Okay. Yeah.
I do, yeah, because I found from experience that sometimes I don't remember anything.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes I just don't remember the story. So obviously it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But I think you definitely need the Anki as well as the story, for sure.
Sure. Well, yeah, the Anki will let you know if you, well, what I say to people a lot is that what Anki allows is for your study sessions to not have to feel maybe as high pressure, because you think about it, you go, all right, if I have to remember this and just based on the study session, then it's like, oh, I better do a really good scene. But if you remember that Anki will tell you if your scene wasn't good enough, then you can kind of relax a little bit and go, okay, maybe this is good enough, maybe it's not, but either way, I'll find out tomorrow, you know, when it comes up in Anki, and I can or can't write down the character. So that's always I found that to be quite useful when I sort of got that when I was originally studying. I had this like realization. I was like, oh, you know, I don't have to worry so much because Anki will just let me know. So you have this sort of safety net of memory, I guess. And of course, the SRS, as good as it is anyway, you know, I've applied so many of those SRS principles to my life. Like anytime I want to learn something new, I always like say to myself, okay, learn the thing and then go away from it for a little bit and then learn it again in the same day. And then for sure, go back to it the next day. At least that. I mean, sure, you could, if I really was serious about it, I'd make an Anki card over the thing I wanted to learn, but just general day-to-day things. It could just be like, my friend said his birthday was on October 22nd or something like that. Yeah, I'll try to remind myself, okay, 10 minutes later, see if you can do something to recall that thing. You know, I mean, usually that's a bad example because I just write that down, but like, you know, other things that might be like that. So, okay, cool. So if you were to, you know, kind of, I guess maybe summarize what 3 aspects of the course, if you can think of 3 or, you know, whatever, have had the biggest impact so far on your Mandarin study.
the first thing I saw of yours was the pronunciation. I started the pronunciation course. And from looking at other systems, I would say that like 99% of the information courses are just absolutely useless on pronunciation.
Yeah.
They don't go into enough detail.
Right.
They don't tell you. My impression, I did some study of Malay here as well. And my impression of teachers is that they haven't got a clue how to teach languages. Most of the teachers.
Yes.
If you just go and this was even in a supposed proper school, but still the teachers have no idea how to teach.
Yeah.
You just think that writing down a few words and going through things, and they don't tell you anything about tongue position or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to know exactly the mechanics of how to start speaking. So that would be one aspect. I think Mandarin Blueprint is streets ahead of everything else. Of course, the memory system is the other thing, because without a memory system, how the hell are you going to remember the characters?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's impossible.
Yeah, people are always like, it seems like a lot of extra stuff you have to learn just to learn a character. And I'm like, if there were only 100 characters, I'd agree with you, but there's so many. So you got to have something better than just writing them over and over, to remember them. So yeah, glad to hear that.
One of the things that strikes me most about your course is the amount of effort you put into the detail and getting things right, to interacting with people through the podcasts and all the articles about how to do things, like so much detail about Anki, so much detail about the theory. No one else is doing this stuff, I don't think.
Yeah, well, the Anki thing, it's like the Anki is definitely the thing that as soon as we're, hopefully, here's to hoping that we get to a point where we have the resources to make our own system for SRS, we're going to do it, because Anki definitely drives us the most crazy of everything, just simply because it's too complicated because it's trying to do everything. Anki's an open source software that you could do anything with. So if you're good with softwares, then sure, it's great. But first of all, the UI interface looks like it fits the late 1980s, early 1990s. And then from a design perspective, and then it's just, sometimes it's unnecessarily confusing, but it's, it does do the trick once you get the hang of it. So, but yeah, I realized one day, I was like, if we're going to use Anki, we better make sure that we explain everything, little details, step by step. Otherwise, people are going to be not too happy with it. So that's great to hear. So let me ask you this. Were you skeptical about anything? I mean, it sounds like most people, their answer to that is, I was skeptical of this whole memory system, but you obviously weren't skeptical of that. So were you skeptical of anything when you first started off?
No, I wasn't skeptical at all.
Oh,
the more I read about it, the only reason I was reluctant to start at first, because I already had Yo-Yo, and I thought, I don't want to pay for another course.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. Well, if you have both courses, Yo-Yo's got a bunch of great content as well. I don't think they use a memory system for the characters, but she's a good teacher. I've seen a lot of her videos. She's an inspiring figure.
Absolutely. That's why I started, and definitely once I get to a certain point, I'll then go through all the Yo-Yo for sure.
I'm sure you'll have a great grasp of a lot of stuff if you use the two in combination. That's kind of what's nice about us, is that we're not all that directly competitive with, Yo-Yo is the closest thing I can think of to a direct competitor to ours, but on the same token, it's not that much of a direct competition, because we do different things. We kind of our strength is definitely on learning Chinese characters, and we build a system off of that. But her strength is definitely going to be colloquial Chinese, and especially her intermediate courses about where she actually goes into a Chinese home and they have an interaction and she notes everything that they've said. That's great for an intermediate learner. So everybody's got their strengths. And we recently actually, have you ever heard of Mandarin Companion?
No.
They do graded readers. So it's a little bit early for you to get into them yet, but I'd be curious if you, so we've signed a free license with them where they have this cool thing where they basically say you can use 40% of our text for free, as long as you mention that it's from Mandarin Companion. And then what we're going to do is a big analysis of all of their work. So they've done graded readers of like The Secret Garden and Emma and some other like classic stories, right? And we're going to do an analysis of it and figure out, if you're doing the Mandarin Blueprint method, where should you be able to read this easily, right? And so then we're going to add some of their content in. And the reason why we're able to do it is because they do graded readers, we do character learning and, sort of basic grammar. So it's kind of a good complementary mix there. And it's really kind of cool, actually, how the Chinese and language learning community in general is pretty mutually supportive. It's quite nice in that way. So with that in mind, any suggestions for how we can improve the course?
I did say to you in an email that I felt a bit of an abrupt change at the start of phase 3.
Right. Yeah. We definitely
it took a bit of getting used to.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to add some more stuff there. We've got some ideas. We're throwing some stuff around there of how to make phase 3 a bit more interesting, because we kind of get this interesting response, which is that everybody likes the first 2 phases, and everybody likes the stories and dialogues and stuff that come from phase 4 and 5. And so we're like, okay, phase 3 is where we need to put a little bit more work in. The first thing we did was recent, where we made just some required sentences and marked them in Anki and all of that. But we're going to try to do some more content with that soon after the expansion. But that's good feedback to get. And we've taken note, and we're going to make an announcement when we've made some improvements there. So that's awesome. So I guess the final question I would just want to ask you then, Ken, is just, would you recommend Mandarin Blueprint to anybody else out there watching this?
Absolutely, yes.
Great, awesome. Sure. Well, if anybody is interested, we always make a coupon code after these case study interviews, and this one will be BELIKEKEN, and you'll get you 30% off the course. So if you'd like to be like Ken and join the Mandarin Blueprint Method, you can just put in the code BELIKEKEN at the checkout. Ken, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, and we'd love to catch up with you again after you finish phase 3, or just maybe a couple months from now. Love to see how you're doing. So hopefully we can talk again, sometime, I guess, around Christmas time.
Sure. No problem.
All right, thanks, Ken.
Thank you.